Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming along again this evening. It's great to have you here. This is our fourth week. We've been here 4 weeks now and learnt quite a bit about ourselves and other people that are in our lives. So I'm hoping that you've been putting that into practice right away, so that you can really start to get a good feel for who's out there, who makes you feel in a particular in a particular feeling, in a particular way, and investigate how you can better manage that. So what I like that quote there I've got on the screen. It says the mind has a powerful way of attracting things that are in harmony with it, good and bad. It's like Zig Ziglar says. He says, whether you think you're right or you think you're wrong, either way, you're right. What do you think that means? If you think you're right or you think you're wrong, either way, you're right.
Yeah. So you'll sort of attract what you believe.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a magnet.
Yeah.
If we have negative thoughts, then negative things are going to come our way. Beautiful. Well done. Thank you for interacting. All right. So this week is the Harmonisers, and thank you for filling in your survey, Lee. I've got that back to you, and I'm really pleased that you said that it was spot on. That just goes to show you that you might have thought over the last 3 weeks, I said, oh, that sounds like me, that sounds like me. But not until you do the survey and you realize, wow, this is exactly who I am.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. Yeah. So anyway, so this week is about the Harmonisers, and the Harmonisers are Enneagram 3, the achiever, Enneagram 6, the questioner, and Enneagram 9, the peacemaker. So we're going to cover all of those this evening. If we define the Harmonisers, so for a person to be in harmony, they must be connected to their thinking, their feeling, and their instincts. So the harmony triad, or the harmonics, what we call them, how we call them in the Enneagram, it's a type that can move from one singular way of perception or perceiving to an array of different perspectives, a world rich, comprehensive experience of reality. It allows us to move into a different way of thinking, a different way of being, even if it's only for a short while. So by integrating the profound wisdom of the head and the heart and the body, so gut feeling, each type can become more balanced and whole, coming back to oneness. This is what this is all about. So it's equipping you with everything that you need to understand yourself, how to connect with self and how to connect with others, and live a contented life. That's what the Harmonisers are all about. So that's 3, 6, 9 triangle, and we'll go into the triangle in a little while. And there are some people that are so at the top there we've got Beyonce. She's a 3, an achiever. The 6 is Jennifer Aniston, who is a questioner, and then of course Sandra there, who's a 9. She's a harmonizer. So that's the kind of personalities that you can relate to, I'm sure, whenever you're thinking about this harmonizers. And again, what I want you to do for this evening is I want you to consider the people in your world and try to put them into, or make, you say, oh yeah, that sounds like her, that sounds like him, that, so try to put them into a position where you can start to understand how you can better manage them, which is what you'll be able to get out of this kind of training. So I'm going to start with a story again, as I normally do. And as always, the treasure in this evening is in the story. So this story is about Maddie. And Maddie's a former actress. She'd achieved celebrated fame in her teenage years and in her early 20s as well. Acting had given her a sense of creative freedom that she truly loved, and she discovered that she had a talent for entertaining. She enjoyed the applause, the adulation of others, fueling her desire to be famous. That's what she wanted. She had entertained audiences in theatres, locally and nationally, before meeting and falling in love with Richard. So once Maddie and Richard were married, she was ready to move into a new role, that of a wife and of a mother. In a way, she immersed herself within this role, dedicating herself to her growing family. At times, she yearned for that spotlight, but she found herself thrilled constantly with the achievements of her two young daughters. As the children began to grow up and her eldest daughter reached the age of 11, she felt a familiar yearning consume her. It had been a long time, but the desire to perform was strong once more. And there was an intrinsic need to find the coveted spotlight. She began to make inquiries about the roles in theatres nearby, and also in theatres and TV credits as well. It was suddenly not so easy to return to the career that she had given up without qualm. Disappointed that she couldn't achieve a break immediately, she began to consider her options. She needed to work, but it was more about achieving her goals than working for a living. There was a need to be creative in any role. No matter what role she took on, she needed to be creative, and that limited her options. She only knew how to perform, and there were little jobs for former actresses in the local paper. Her husband supported her the whole way, but he was reluctant when she suggested looking farther afield and treading the boards once more. This meant traveling and being apart. He also didn't want to uproot their family now that the children were growing up so fast. Maddie was despondent. Her need for creativity was now at a cross purpose with her desire to love and protect her children. Richard yearned to please. He was on a good salary, so they could cope without her going back to work. But now that the children were becoming more involved with their own schoolwork and with their friends, the empty hours were a reminder as to how her life would be if she couldn't have a fulfilling career. Finally, Maddie came up with an idea of setting up a local drama school, a study group for young performers where she could teach them acting skills, put on local plays, and provide some voice coaching. This would give her the recognition that she needed and yet provide her with work that satisfied her creative needs. It also meant she could pass on all her knowledge to other young hopefuls, possibly future stars. She was convinced that this new role would give her everything she needed. Unable to resist, she threw herself right into it, looking for a potential studio, and indulged in creating lesson plans and theatre productions and scripts. She rented a studio, a converted barn, that needed work on the aesthetics. She started immediately to renovate the studio, imagining the classes booked to overflowing with her eager candidates. She's already experienced her fair share of success and expects it again. As a child, she entered a drama competition and was spotted by an agent for a modeling company. Then a couple of TV ads came her way. From the age of 14, she was recognized by everyone. And when she had decided that she wanted to act, small roles came her way. It was enough to satisfy her ego and allow her to develop her stage presence. Although she never made it really big, her roles had been regular and rewarding until she had made the decision to give it all up. She launched her new venture, excitedly, expecting many candidates. But disappointingly, only 5 people did. The business was not viable with only a small group of students. She began to worry. Her partner had been completely supportive all the way through and had made various suggestions, which she had mainly ignored, blinded by her passion to do it all on her own. Instead of turning to him for help, she saw the poor attendance as a sign of failure, something that she had never dealt with before. She felt tired, irritable, and strained. The new venture was costing her money instead of making it for her, and she dreaded telling her partner, who had such a sharp instinct with money. He had offered to do her bookkeeping, but rather than explain her doubts about the viability of the business, she made continuous excuses about why the books were not readily available. Eventually, as their home life became fraught with unspoken tension, she eventually told him the truth and finally listened to his business advice. He was far from angry, as she'd expected, and didn't see her as a failure. So the achiever is someone who always meets their goals, no matter what happens, no matter what it takes. They're very optimistic, confident, industrious, efficient, self-propelled, energetic, motivated by the need to be productive, to achieve success, and to avoid failure. In shadow, they can be deceptive, narcissistic, pretentious, vain, superficial, vindictive, and overly competitive. Their challenge, they fear not being seen as successful. They believe that you must accomplish and succeed to be loved. They can be inattentive to others' feelings. The compensation is they over-identify with ideal images of success. They deny their deeper needs. They strive for approval through doing. They believe efficiency wins respect. And they can become human doings rather than human beings. We also have, as in all of our archetypes, healthy and unhealthy, so light and shadow. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Game of Thrones, and I've got some Game of Thrones photos there as a way of example of this, because I love the Game of Thrones, and I watch it faithfully. And these two depicted absolutely the Enneagram 3, healthy and unhealthy. So unhealthy 3s tend towards narcissism, psychopathic behavior. So Joffrey on the right-hand side there, he's a great example of that, an unhealthy 3. While a healthy 3, his wife, Marjorie, she shows kindness and benevolence. When extremely unhealthy, they can become ruthless and take delight in destroying other people's happiness. Joffrey portrays this character well because he is obsessive and vindictive. He desires the admiration of the people, but possessing none of the tools to gain it. He demands respect, but because he is unwilling to put it in the effort to earn it, he resorts to cruelty and heavy-handedness. Now that's extreme, but that's an unhealthy 3 is really can go really, really bad. So the basic desire of the achiever is to be valuable, to be the best. Guys, I didn't start recording this, did I? Yes, I did. Did I? Am I recording? Let me have a look. Let me have a look. Let me have a look. Isn't it true we're getting old? You can't remember what you just did.
Yeah, it came up with
it told
the
you
recording.
recording?
Yeah.
it is recording. It says up in the top left-hand screen, left-hand corner.
Okay, beautiful. Great. Thank you for that. Goodness me. Anyway, all right. So they desire to be valuable, to be the best. Their motivation is to be affirmed, to be distinguished, to distinguish themselves from other people, to gain attention and to be admired, to impress others. Their basic fear is to feel to be worthless. And they seek status. So those images you see at the top there, they're also from the Game of Thrones. And there's Margie on the right-hand side, and she's with the people. She's, she's helping the poor and she's doing wonderful things with the people, whereas he's killing people on the other hand. There's a whole bunch of achiever types there that you can read through, and you'll be able to recognize a lot of them. There are so many 3s out there, as with other as well. But just bear in mind that the 3, they're not all bad, okay? They're not all bad, but they love to achieve and they're great to have around, especially in the office when you need to get things done. They absolutely, totally get it done. They're like a dog at a bone. They just don't stop until it's done. Amazing people. So the achiever, how do you communicate with them? You leave them alone when they're working. Let them get the job done. Don't interrupt them, because when I was the general manager of a training organization, and I employed a young girl to help me out with doing many of the things that I had to do for the training organization. And when I gave her a job to do, she would say, Evelyn, please don't, she would say to the receptionist, don't put any calls through. And she'd go into her office and shut the door. And she said, please don't disturb me. But when she came out, everything was done. Like, she was amazing, an amazing young girl. I'm still in touch with her. In fact, she was once upon a time my son's girlfriend, but she was absolutely amazing. So give them honest, but not unduly critical or judgmental feedback. Help them keep their environment harmonious and peaceful. Don't burden them with negative emotions. They don't like it. Tell them that you like being around them. Tell them you're proud of them and their achievements. Okay, so moving on now to the Enneagram 6. This story is about Grant. So Grant had worked for a company as a manager for many years. He'd worked his way up into the position over the years and enjoyed his job security and respect from his colleagues. When the company joined forces with a competitor and then expanded, he began to worry about his job, the security around his job, for the first time in many, many years, because he was always very sure of himself. He was confident in his ability to deliver in his role, but knew that change and expansion could either develop the role or reduce it in ways that he'd never previously imagined and never experienced before. Suddenly, instead of being relaxed at work, he started looking for signs of change around him and to seek out problems that were actually non-existent. He felt that his fears were unfounded, but then he was asked to show a manager around who was based in the other company, and he was asked to clarify his role in his business. The other manager gave very little away throughout the whole conversation, but Grant was convinced that his job was now at risk. As the weeks went by, his work began to suffer. He lost his concentration and made a few errors. Fortunately, these were corrected in time. It was then that he began to realize that his anxiousness was now total overwhelm and was starting to overshadow everything that he did. Home life was also volatile and argumentative. His wife had a high-pressure job also, and his increased irritability also led to much greater friction than usual at home. Understanding that he was prone to feelings of paranoia, his wife was less than supportive, suggesting instead that he discuss the situation with his employers or simply look for a job elsewhere. He felt he couldn't go to his employer because they might not react positively to his suspicions. Eventually, he chose to seek professional help, which did help him to better understand his reaction to change and to identify patterns of behavior that was usual for his personality type. Would he lose his job? Or would he be promoted? So the questioner, in light, they're very loyal, thoughtful, perceptive, trustworthy, analytical, engaging, attentive, and insightful. In shadow, they can be hypervigilant, controlling, unpredictable, judgmental, suspicious, inflexible, sarcastic, and evidence-seeking. Their challenge is lack of trust in authorities. This creates a sense of danger that's projected as fear and anxiety, a loss of objectivity. They compensate. They have doubtful minds. They look for inconsistencies, ulterior motives, negative feelings, are disowned by the doubting mind, which compensates with strategic interventions. How do we communicate with these people? It's vitally important to have a very calm and safe environment with this type. My husband's a 6. You know, I love music, and so whenever I'm home on my own, I turn the music up really, really loud. And the first thing he does when he comes in, he goes and turns it down or almost off. I'd rather have it off than have it as low as what he has it. He's amazing. Anyway, questioners are very sensitive to noise and movement, and the reduction of this in a calm and familiar environment will help them to feel at ease. Keep any wild gestures or screaming and carrying on to a minimum. They don't like sudden changes in voice, like, for example, the tone, the pitch. So if I get really angry and I start yelling, he needs to, he wants to try and calm me down because he can't take it. So you might know someone like that too. I'm not sure if you do, but that's how they usually are. So their basic desire is to feel supported and secure. Their key motivation is to feel safe, secure, supported by others, to have reassurance, to test the attitudes of others towards them, and to fight against anxiety and insecurity. Their basic fear is insecurity itself and lack of guidance. They seek security. Again, there on the right, you have a lot of different questioner types. Again, you're going to recognize a lot of those people. So if you know someone who fits in with that category, make a mental note of it or write it down somewhere. Then as we go through when we come to the retreat, you're going to be able to, it's going to be amazing how you'll be able to read these people and be able to manage how you react around them in future. So what do we need to do when we're talking to them? They want detail. So you need to be direct, clear, and assertive. Listen to them carefully and don't overreact to their overreacting. They do overreact. They're intelligent, they're loyal, lovable, and they can be relied upon. They keep the morale high and they acknowledge their strengths and commit to their cause. They're hardworking, often anxious, hypervigilant, and always on the lookout for danger. So reassure them that everything is okay between you. They're at a constant push and pull when trying to make up their minds on new projects. So gently nudge them. Don't try to bully them. Just gently nudge them into and toward the new experiences. They fear mostly about being taken advantage of. So keep calm. Help them feel secure. As parents, they trust. They're loving, loyal, and nurturing with a strong sense of duty. And the same applies in a professional environment. Once they trust you, gaining their trust is not always easy. But once you do, you're in. So without rapport, they don't trust. And they could even take on an egotistical qualities about them. So you must be able to prove your case, and they want evidence. They won't accept anything less than evidence, actual evidence, and it needs to be a source that's trustworthy. It can't be just some random thing. They need actual evidence that is valid. Walk the talk. So the treasure in the story for the 9, this is the harmonizer or the peacemaker. And this story is about Sam. Sam was a sensitive, caring person. Her friends and colleagues always referred to her as the oil on troubled waters. Everyone turned to her for advice. And she had a natural ability to diffuse difficult situations. She'd spent many years working in corporate. Her role in HR was varied and challenging. Because of her disposition, where she was able to connect with people easily, she became a problem solver unofficially, and her team relied on her regularly. The problems at work began with a rumor of amalgamation of companies. It became evident there was a need for change management, and Sam was the obvious candidate to implement these workshops to help their employees embrace change. Although she was gratified to be selected, it was hard work. Being emphatic, she found it difficult to remain distant from all those who she was trying to help. Ultimately, she had a job to do, and that meant informing employees of the many changes and the potential redundancies. But it was difficult to be caught in the middle of a difficult situation. She loves the company she worked for. And although her role had always been challenging, this was testing her loyalties to the max. She felt deeply for those who were now scared of their circumstances, were going to change, and wanted to support them. Yet the demands of the role meant she had to make everyone see the changes from a positive light. In time, many of the problems were solved, and the new changes were implemented. She was exhausted, yet proud of the work that she'd achieved. One of the new changes meant attending operations meetings, where the head of operations would announce any new changes or benefits to the company. That was publicly to acknowledge those who had worked hard and had gone the extra mile. The HR team had to attend, but she felt deeply hurt when there was no mention of her role in the change management process, and she felt completely overlooked and invisible. The more she thought about it, the more she felt unappreciated, and her loyalty to the company wavered. She was not an attention seeker, but did like her work to be acknowledged, and she needed that. Totally dissatisfied, she began looking for work elsewhere, but was struggling to find a suitable role. She needed to come to a decision on the best way forward. So the harmonizer in light are pleasant, peaceful, generous, patient, receptive, diplomatic, open-minded, and emphatic. In relationships are kind and gentle, reassuring, supportive, loyal, and non-judgmental. In shadow, spaced out, sometimes, forgetful, stubborn, obsessive, apathetic, defensive, judgmental, passive, aggressive, unassertive, stubborn, and over-accommodating. Their challenge, they believe in order to get love, you must adapt and merge with the environment. And compensation is they have inadequate boundaries. They need more boundaries implemented by self. They have a weak sense of self, sacrifice connection to their own inner reality to maintain comfort. They overfocus on the preservation of stable, peaceful environment. And they often just numb out. They just numb out so that they don't have to think about the problems that they're having in any given situation. So the harmonizer, their basic desire is to maintain an inner stability of peace of mind. Their key motivation is to create a harmonious environment, avoid conflict, preserve things as they are, and they fear loss or separation, annihilation. They seek peace. So there you have on the right, you also have lots and lots of different harmonizer types that you can relate to. Again, I've got all sorts of people in there for you so that you can to try and give you a good overview of the kind of people that you can relate to on the TV, for example, and who are the harmonizers. How do we get along with them? Well, if you want something from them, how you ask is really important. They don't like you to expect anything, and they don't like pressure. They like to listen and be of service. That's what they do best. Don't take advantage of that. Listen until they finish speaking. Even though they meander some, give them time to finish things and make decisions. And it's okay to nudge them a little. Avoid the hard sell. Ask them questions to help them get clear of mind. They love flattery. So tell them when you look good. Tell them that there is something or something or someone that warrants recognition. That's them. So if it's warranted, don't be pretentious. Don't be don't say it if you don't think it, if you don't believe it. They see straight through you. It needs to be genuine, authentic. Where appropriate, hug them. Show physical affection. It opens up their feelings. Laugh with them and share in their enjoyment of life. So going back to the beginning, we started this 4 weeks ago, and we're looking at self-awareness and and brain science. The things we covered, and the reason why, one of the reasons why I'm doing this is because there are so many people, not just in Australia, but worldwide, who are experiencing mental disorders. They brand themselves, they have mental illness or mental disorders. So there are some results there, which I've covered before, in regard to the ABS. We also looked at the Forbes report, where they said that people are looking for more meaning and purpose in their life more than ever. The Gartner report says that people have shifted their values after COVID, shifted their values towards, they want value from life. They want balance. They're rethinking, the workplace and the kind of work that they want to do. So there's many reasons why what we're doing here is self-awareness. Self-awareness is 95% of the journey. 95% of the journey is awareness. It's really important for you to bear that in mind. We also looked at some Australian stats here as well, and I'll just do the 1 and 2. The first thing that people want in the workplace today is a good salary and reward. The second thing there is a well-being, and there's only a difference of 3%. So well-being for people today is super important, which is why we're doing what we're doing here together. So this is where we started, and you've been through this already in other weeks' recordings. So what's coming up? This is our last Thursday night for a few weeks. I'll be back on the 3rd of August with the 6 core human needs and also relationships. So power versus love in relationships. Really interesting. I did at one point a few years ago, I started doing relationship coaching, and it's amazing. It's an amazing coaching program. And really, when we have different relationships, we have problems in relationships. It's about power and love. It really is about power and love. Who has the power and who doesn't have the power, and and what love means. So I'm going to cover some of that for you on the 3rd of August, leading up to the retreat. Then in September, I will go through. I'll start to clear some shadows for those of you who will be coming along to the retreat, and looking at blind spots, which is an introduction to what you can expect to experience at the retreat. And then on the 5th of October, I'm going to be doing personal power and living with your passion and purpose in life. And then, of course, in November is the retreat itself. So I spoke a little bit about this last week. So this is the 6 core human needs, and we're going to talk about those 6 needs. So they started with Anthony Robbins or Tony Robbins. I'm also going to be talking about masculine and feminine archetypes. I'm not talking male and female here. I'm talking energy, masculine archetypes, so masculine energy and feminine energy. So, a man can have feminine energy and a woman can have masculine energy. So we're going to talk about, this is where the power versus love comes into it. So this is a really interesting piece that we'll be covering in August. That's what's coming up next. The triangle in the middle there. In order to have an ideal relationship, we need 3 things. An ideal relationship, we need 3 things. You need to be lovers. You need to have the mother-father parenting thing. Now, if you don't have children, then that's okay. But you can parent, a pet, or you could, for example, go on a holiday together, book a holiday together, or you can maybe do some renovations around the house. There must be some kind of parenting, something you're sharing, and you're discussing what the best way forward. That's the kind of parenting I'm talking about. And you need to be best friends. So this is something I'm going to cover in a little more depth for you in the next webinar coming up in August. I'm also going to continue on and talk to you about the Enneagram, because the Enneagram is what I use for my my interventions and for helping you to understand more about your own self-awareness. So when we're looking at the Enneagram, we have there the Enneagram it follows two sequences. We have arrows, going back and forth there. We have integration. So, for example, if I talk about the 9, for example, the harmonizer. So what I need to do in order for me to be in a good space, the 9 will go to the 3, the achiever. Okay. If I look at the 9 again in the disintegration, whenever the 9 goes to the 6, they usually go to 6 in stress. Okay, in stress. But whenever they want to go to grow and to grow in ways that they didn't expect before, they go to the 3 and they become the high achiever. More on that over the next couple of months. But what they do, the lines indicate the influences and interactions between all the different types. Each type has a different pattern of energy. And even when we move, along those lines, for example, and we shift to a different archetype, our core archetype remains constant, but we're also able to travel to other archetypal behaviors along those lines. So moving along the lines is a real significant shift in our perspective. It's about how to see things from a different point of view. And that allows you to step out of your typical style and reactions and create new ways to respond to the world. So these are the archetypes. These are my archetypes, the ones that I use in my archetype coaching. So we'll be covering those archetypes over the next few months. And when we get to the retreat, there will be a lot of interventions going on, and that will be, I'll be able to take you through. Maybe I'll use the lines. Don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I just read the floor and work with the floor at any given time. But I have the mat. I have my 3 meter by 3 meter mat, and I'll use that sometimes too. Not all the time, perhaps, but I will use it sometimes. And I'll be able to take you through into the different types, and you'll be able to see things from a different perspective. And that allows you to make a really good informed decision on what you need to do next. It's really about working together. We're going to work together to develop your skills on how to walk the path of integration, to become one once more. After many, many years, a lifetime of people ripping parts off you, and you're falling to the side of the road. This is about bringing it back to self, bringing yourself. And again, self-awareness is 95% of the journey. So we'll work together to do that at the retreat. All right, thanks for being here, guys. If you're wanting to book, I think the people that are here now have already booked anyway. But if you want to look at this recording and you're wanting to book, you're welcome to do that here, or give me a call or send me an email, and I'm happy to discuss it with you further. So before we go on, I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to have a chat with you ladies, in case there's anything you want me to say in private. Let me just stop recording.